Jin Park stared at the strange readings on his computer screen. The numbers made no sense. The quantum tunneling experiment should have shown normal particle behavior, but instead, something else was happening in the test chamber. "This can't be right," he muttered, adjusting his safety glasses. The late-night silence of the laboratory was broken only by the soft hum of machines. The test chamber, a clear cube about 1 meter across, sat in the center of his private lab. Inside it, a small bronze lamp about the size of his hand gave off unusual energy patterns. Jin had found it earlier that day when his experiment created a brief dimensional tear, something that wasn't supposed to happen. He checked the time, 11:42 p.m. Everyone else had left the research facility hours ago. Even Jaiho, his best friend and fellow researcher, had gone home after telling Jin not to stay too late. Just one more test, Jin said to himself. He had already said this 3 times in the past hour. But this time, he meant it. The lamp's energy signature was unlike anything he had seen before. Getting up from his desk, Jin walked to the test chamber. He put on his protective gloves and carefully opened the chamber door. The lamp looked ordinary enough, old bronze with some scratches and dents, but his instruments showed it was anything but normal. He lifted the lamp out and carried it to his workbench. Maybe if he cleaned it, he could see more details. He reached for a soft cloth and began to gently wipe the surface. The lamp grew warm in his hands, then warmer, then hot. Jin tried to put it down, but his hands wouldn't move. Silver light began pouring from the lamp's spout. The light spread across the workbench, up the walls, filling the room with a soft, pulsing glow. "Oh no," Jin said. His heart raced as he watched the light gather in front of him, taking shape. He should have been terrified, but his scientific mind was already recording every detail. The light formed into a human figure, a woman with long silver hair that moved as if underwater. Her eyes opened, revealing iris colors that shifted like an aurora. She wore what looked like a traditional Korean hanbok, but made of flowing light and shadow. She looked at Jin with surprise, then smiled. "Well," she said in perfect Korean, "you're not what I expected." Jin found his voice. "What do you mean?" "Most humans scream or faint when I appear," she said, "but you're just observing me. Taking mental notes, aren't you?" He nodded. "The light you're made of. It's like nothing I've ever seen. The way it bends and moves. Are you made of some kind of quantum entangled particles?" The woman laughed, a sound like silver bells. "My name is Yo-Rium," she said, "and you are the most unusual human I've met in a very long time." "I'm Jin Park," he replied automatically. Are you what humans call the Genie?" Yo-Rium floated closer, her feet never touching the ground. "That's one word for what I am. But it's not quite correct. I'm something else. Something your science is just beginning to understand." Jin's mind raced with questions. The physicist in him wanted to run tests, take measurements, understand everything about this impossible being. But first, he had to ask. "The stories say genies grant wishes. Is that true?" "3 wishes," Yo-Rium said. "Those stories got that part right. But I promise you, Jin Park, I'm nothing like the genies in your stories." Her eyes sparkled with amusement. "So, what is your first wish?" Jin looked at his computer, still showing the strange energy readings. He looked at his notes about dimensional breaches. Then he looked back at Yo-Rium, this impossible being of light and science and magic. He knew exactly what he wanted to wish for. But first, he had to understand what he was dealing with. "Before I make any wishes," he said, "can you explain the rules? I want to know exactly how this works." Yo-Rium's smile grew wider. "Now I know why the lamp chose you," she said. "You're going to make this very interesting, aren't you?" Yo-Rium sat cross-legged in the air, her silver hair floating around her like a cloud. Jin had pulled up his office chair and was taking notes on his tablet. "First," Yo-Rium said, "I should explain what I am not. I am not a magical being who simply waves her hands to make things happen. I am a dimensional traveler with access to advanced science that your world is only beginning to understand. He-Jin stopped writing. Are you saying that what we call magic is just advanced technology? Exactly. Yo-Ryum created a small ball of light between her hands. What looks like magic to you is simply the manipulation of quantum fields and dimensional energy. The lamp isn't magical. It's a sophisticated device that allows me to exist in your dimension. He-Jin looked at the bronze lamp on his workbench. But why do you have to grant wishes? Why 3? Think of it as an exchange, Yo-Ryum explained. The energy needed to keep me in your dimension must be balanced. 3 wishes create perfect balance. Any more would be dangerous, any less would be wasteful. She continued, but there are rules. I cannot kill anyone. I cannot make someone fall in love. I cannot bring back the dead. These aren't moral rules, they're physical limitations. Such changes would create too many quantum paradoxes. He-Jin typed quickly on his tablet. What about time travel? Possible, but extremely dangerous. Small changes might be acceptable, but large changes could destroy both our dimensions. She tilted her head. You're taking this very calmly. I've spent years studying quantum physics, He-Jin said. The idea that there are other dimensions isn't strange to me. What's strange is that you're here, proving everything I theorized about. Yo-Ryum floated down until she was eye level with him. Most humans ask for money, power, or fame. You haven't even mentioned those things. Those wishes seem wasteful, He-Jin said. With your level of technology, you could teach humanity so much. We could advance centuries in understanding. Be careful, Yo-Ryum warned. Quick advancement can be dangerous. Many civilizations have destroyed themselves by gaining knowledge before they were ready for it. He-Jin stood up and walked to his whiteboard. He began drawing diagrams. What if the wish was structured to prevent that? What if instead of asking for all the knowledge at once, someone wished for humanity to gain understanding gradually, safely? Yo-Ryum appeared beside him, studying his diagrams. In all my time granting wishes, I've never met a human who thought this way. She pointed to one of his equations. Your math is surprisingly close to correct, by the way. Really? He-Jin's eyes lit up. Can you show me where I went wrong? That would be telling, she said with a smile. But I notice you keep asking questions instead of making your first wish. Are you afraid? He-Jin put down his marker. Not afraid, just careful. A wish is too important to waste. I need to understand everything first. He turned to face her. You said the lamp chose me. What did you mean? Yo-Ryum's expression became serious. The lamp isn't just a device. It's partly alive. It seeks out beings who can use its power wisely. In all my existence, it has never chosen a human who asked so many questions before making a wish. Is that good or bad? That depends on what you wish for. She gestured at his notes. But I think you're going to surprise me. Humans usually do, but you're different. He-Jin looked at his equations, then at the lamp, and finally at Yo-Ryum. I think I'm ready to make my first wish. But you might not like it. Yo-Ryum's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Now that, she said, is exactly what I was hoping you would say. He-Jin stood in his laboratory, looking directly at Yo-Ryum. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was clear. He had thought carefully about this wish. Before I make my wish, he said, I need to confirm something. If I wish to understand something, will I truly understand it, or will I just have the information in my head? Yo-Ryum considered this. The understanding will be real. Your mind will grow to truly grasp what you learn. But choose carefully. Some knowledge can be dangerous. He-Jin nodded. He took a deep breath and spoke his first wish. I wish to understand the fundamental nature of your powers and the science behind them. The silver light around Yo-Ryum flickered. Her eyes widened. For the first time since appearing, she looked truly surprised. What did you say? She asked quietly. I want to understand how your powers work, He Jin repeated. Not just the results, but the actual science behind them. The quantum mechanics, the dimensional physics, everything. Yo Ryum floated down until her feet touched the floor. She walked toward He Jin, studying his face. In 10,000 years, no one has ever wished for this. They wish for what my powers can give them, not for understanding of the powers themselves. Is it possible? He Jin asked. Can you grant this wish? Yes, Yo Ryum said slowly. But the knowledge, it might be too much for a human mind. It could break you. You said the lamp chose me for a reason. He Jin reminded her. Maybe this is why. Yo Ryum was silent for a long moment. Then she smiled. Very well, but we'll have to do this carefully. Are you ready? He Jin sat down in his chair. Ready. Yo Ryum placed her hands on either side of his head, not quite touching him. Silver light began to flow from her fingers. Close your eyes, she said. He Jin closed his eyes. The silver light touched his temples. And suddenly, he understood. He saw how dimensional barriers work like layers of reality stacked together. He understood how Yo Ryum's kind could slip between these layers, manipulating the fabric of space-time itself. He saw how wishes created ripples in reality, and how these ripples had to be carefully controlled to prevent chaos. His mind expanded to grasp concepts that no human had ever understood before. Mathematics beyond anything Earth had discovered flowed through his thoughts. He saw how the lamp worked, not magic, but incredibly advanced technology that could alter the very structure of reality. When he opened his eyes, the laboratory looked different. He could see the quantum fields flowing around everything. He watched particles pop in and out of existence, dancing between dimensions. This is beautiful, he whispered. Yo Ryum was watching him with concern. Your mind. It's adapting. It's actually understanding. How is this possible? He Jin stood up, his movements careful as he adjusted to his new perception of reality. All my life, I studied how the universe works. My mind was ready for this. It's like I had the framework built, and you just filled in the missing pieces. Do you understand now why we're so careful with our powers? Yo Ryum asked. Why we limit the wishes to 3? Yes, He Jin said. Too many changes to reality at once could shatter the dimensional barriers. The 3-wish limit isn't about magic. It's about maintaining dimensional stability. He walked to his whiteboard and began writing new equations. His hand moved quickly, filling the board with mathematics that no human had ever written before. What are you going to do with this knowledge? Yo Ryum asked softly. He Jin turned to her, his eyes bright with understanding and purpose. Help humanity grow. But first, I need to think carefully about my second wish. This knowledge is just the beginning. The next morning, He Jin sat in his laboratory, watching the sunrise through new eyes. The light coming through his window wasn't just light anymore. He could see how it bent through dimensions, how each particle danced between possible states of existence. Yo Ryum appeared beside him, her silver form glowing in the morning light. She had spent the night watching him work, fascinated by how quickly he grasped the complex science behind her powers. You haven't slept, she said. Too excited, He Jin replied, pointing to his whiteboard. It was now covered in complex equations. I've been writing down everything I understand. It's amazing how close some of our human theories were, even though we were missing so many pieces. Yo Ryum studied his equations. Your mind has taken to this knowledge better than I expected. But aren't you afraid? Of what? The responsibility. This knowledge, it changes everything you thought you knew about reality. He Jin put down his marker and turned to face her. Of course I'm afraid, but I'm also hopeful. This could help humanity so much, if we use it wisely. A knock at the laboratory door made them both turn. He Jin, are you in there? It was Jaiho's voice. Yo Ryum quickly vanished, becoming invisible to normal human sight. Jin could still see her quantum signature, a beautiful pattern of energy in the air. "Come in," Jin called. Jaiho entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might need this. Have you been here all night?" "Yes," Jin said, accepting the coffee. "I had a breakthrough." Jaiho looked at the whiteboard, his eyes widening. "These equations, I've never seen anything like them. What do they mean?" Jin sipped his coffee, choosing his words carefully. "They're about dimensional barriers and quantum field interactions. I had some new ideas last night." "They look amazing," Jaiho said, "but also strange. Are you sure they're right?" "More sure than I've ever been about anything," Jin said. He could feel Yo-Ryum's invisible presence nearby, watching with interest. Jaiho studied the equations more closely. "Denai is going to want to see these. This could be huge for our research." Jin nodded, but he felt uncertain. He now understood why advanced knowledge had to be shared carefully. "Let me clean them up first," he said. "Make them more understandable." After Jaiho left, Yo-Ryum reappeared. "You handled that well," she said. "Most humans would want to share everything at once. I understand now why we can't." Jin said, "Too much knowledge too quickly could be dangerous. We need to grow into it slowly." Yo-Ryum sat on his desk, her form shimming in the morning light. "You're very different from other humans I've met," she said softly. "How many humans have you met?" "Hundreds, over thousands of years. But none who wanted to understand rather than simply use power." She looked at him curiously. "What made you different?" Jin thought about it. "Maybe because I've always believed that understanding is more valuable than power. Power without understanding is dangerous. And now that you understand my powers." "Now I know I was right," he said. "And I think I know what my second wish should be. But first, I have a question." Yo-Ryum tilted her head. "What is it?" "The connection between wishes and dimensional stability. Could it be modified? Made safer? More sustainable?" Yo-Ryum's eyes sparkled with interest. "In all my existence, no one has ever asked me that. You really are going to change everything, aren't you?" Jin smiled. "That's the plan. But we'll do it right." 3 days had passed since Jin's first wish. He had spent every moment studying and thinking, preparing for what would come next. His laboratory had become a space of endless calculations and careful planning. Dami Li, the head of research, stood in his laboratory doorway. She looked at his whiteboards with sharp interest. "Your recent work is remarkable," she said, "but you haven't explained where these ideas came from." Jin kept his face calm, though his heart beat faster. "Sometimes understanding comes all at once," he said, "like pieces of a puzzle falling into place." Dami walked to one of the boards. "These equations, they suggest things that should be impossible. Yet the math works perfectly." She turned to face him. "What aren't you telling me, Jin?" Before he could answer, his computer beeped. "New test results." Dami looked at the screen, her eyes widening. "These energy readings," she said, "they match the theoretical patterns in your equations. How is this possible?" "I need more time to verify everything," Jin said carefully, "to make sure it's all safe." Dami nodded slowly. "You have 1 week to show me solid results. After that, I need to know everything." She left the laboratory, her footsteps echoing in the hallway. Yo-Ryum appeared as soon as Dome was gone. "She suspects something," she said. "Yes," Jin agreed. "Which means I need to make my second wish now. We're running out of time." He had spent days thinking about this wish. He understood now how dangerous it could be to give humanity too much knowledge too quickly. But he also knew how much this knowledge could help his world. "Are you sure about this?" Yo-Ryum asked. "Your second wish could change everything." Jin stood up and faced her. "I wish for humanity to have the capability to understand and responsibly use the knowledge of dimensional science over time, in a way that prevents misuse and allows for natural technological growth." Yo-Rium's silver form glowed brighter. "You're not wishing for instant knowledge." "No," He-Jin said. "I'm wishing for the ability to learn and grow safely, for humanity to gain understanding at a pace they can handle." Yo-Rium floated closer to him. "In all my existence, I have never granted a wish like this. It will change the future of your entire species. Will it work?" "Yes," she said, "but not in the way most humans would want. The change will be gradual. It might take generations before humanity reaches full understanding." "That's exactly what I want," He-Jin said. "Quick power is dangerous. We need time to grow into it." Yo-Rium raised her hands. Silver light filled the room. He-Jin felt something change in the air, in reality itself. His new understanding let him see the wish taking effect. Subtle changes in the quantum field, adjustments to the dimensional barriers. "It is done," Yo-Rium said. "Over time, humans will find themselves better able to understand dimensional science. New ideas will come more easily. Discoveries will build on each other naturally." He-Jin looked at his equations. Already, he could think of better ways to explain them, safer ways to introduce these concepts to others. "Thank you," he said. Yo-Rium studied him with her shifting aurora eyes. "You now have one wish left," she said softly. "And I find myself hoping you will surprise me again." He-Jin looked at her, seeing not just her beautiful form, but the complex quantum patterns that made up her true self. "Don't worry," he said. "I think my last wish will be the most surprising of all." The changes from He-Jin's second wish began sooner than expected. Within days, researchers across the facility started making breakthroughs in quantum physics. New theories emerged, each one bringing humanity closer to understanding dimensional science. He-Jin watched it all from his laboratory, both excited and worried. Dai Li had noticed the sudden progress and grew more suspicious each day. One morning, she called He-Jin to her office. The room was filled with screens showing data from various experiments. He-Jin could see the quantum patterns flowing around everything, thanks to his enhanced understanding. "Something changed last week," Dai said, looking directly at him. "Suddenly, everyone is having revolutionary ideas, but all the advances seem to connect to your work." "Science builds on itself," He-Jin replied carefully. "One discovery leads to another." "True." Dai pressed a button on her desk. Security footage appeared on the main screen. It showed He-Jin's laboratory late at night. Silver light filled the room. But science doesn't usually involve mysterious lights in empty rooms. He-Jin's heart raced, but he kept his face calm. "That's from an experimental quantum field test." "No," Dai said. "I checked the records. No test was scheduled that night." She leaned forward. "What's really happening, He-Jin?" Before he could answer, the air in the office shifted. He-Jin felt dimensional energies swirling. Something was wrong. Yo-Rium appeared suddenly, visible to both of them. Dai jumped from her chair. "We have a problem," Yo-Rium said urgently. "My superiors have noticed the changes. They're concerned about the wishes you've made." "What? Who are you?" Dai asked, her eyes wide. "There's no time," Yo-Rium said. "They're coming. The Dimensional Council rarely interferes, but your wishes have drawn their attention." The air rippled again. 3 figures appeared in the office, beings of pure energy, their forms shifting between dimensions. He-Jin could see their true nature now, complex patterns of quantum energy far more advanced than even Yo-Rium. "Yo-Rium," one of them spoke, their voice echoing through multiple dimensions. "You have allowed this human to make unprecedented wishes. The natural order is being disrupted. The wishes follow all rules," Yo-Rium argued. "They promote growth and understanding, not chaos." "The rules exist to prevent change on this scale," another being said. "Humanity is not ready for this knowledge." He-Jin stepped forward. "You're wrong," he said. Using his new understanding, he spoke in their own dimensional language. The beings shifted in surprise. He speaks our tongue, the third being noted, and understands our science. Because I wish to understand, Jin said, not to gain power, but to learn. My second wish ensures humanity will grow into this knowledge safely. Domai watched all this in stunned silence. Finally, she found her voice. This explains everything. The equations, the breakthroughs. She looked at Jin with new understanding. The dimensional beings conferred among themselves, their energy patterns swirling. Finally, the first one spoke again. We will allow this to continue for now, but we will be watching. And you, Jin Park, have one wish remaining. Choose it wisely. The future of both our dimensions may depend on it. They vanished, leaving the office in silence. Daimai sat heavily in her chair. Jin, she said quietly, I believe you have quite a story to tell me. Jin looked at Yoriam, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, he said, I do. But first, I need to think about my final wish. Because now it's not just about humanity anymore. 2 days after the Dimensional Council's visit, Jin sat in his laboratory with Daomai and Yoriam. He had explained everything, showing Daomai the lamp and sharing what he had learned about dimensional science. So you have one wish left, Daomai said thoughtfully, and it needs to satisfy both humanity's needs and the Council's concerns. Yes, Jin replied. But there's more to consider now. He looked at Yoriam, who was gazing out the window at the setting sun. Daomai noticed this look. She had seen how Jin and Yoriam had grown closer over the past days. The way they completed each other's sentences when explaining dimensional concepts. How they worked together as if they had known each other for years, not days. When you grant the final wish, Daomai asked Yoriam, what happens to you? I return to my dimension, Yoriam said quietly. It is our law. After 3 wishes, we must go back. Jin stood up and walked to his whiteboard. New equations covered its surface, calculations about dimensional barriers and the nature of existence itself. His first wish had given him understanding far beyond normal human knowledge. His second wish was helping humanity grow toward that understanding safely. But his third wish, that was becoming more complicated with each passing hour. The Council is watching, Yoriam reminded him. They will judge your final wish carefully. I know, Jin said, but I've been thinking about something. About the nature of dimensional barriers and why they exist. He drew a new diagram on the board. Your people created these barriers long ago, to separate dimensions and prevent chaos. The 3-wish system was designed to allow limited interaction while maintaining stability. That's correct, Yoriam said. But what if there was another way? Jin continued. What if dimensions could interact more freely, but in a controlled way? Not through wishes, but through understanding and cooperation. Daomai studied his diagram. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Maybe. Jin turned to Yoriam. In all your time granting wishes, has anyone ever wished for something that would change the fundamental nature of dimensional interaction itself? Yoriam's silver form shimmered with surprise. No, such a wish would be unprecedented. The Council would never allow it. Unless, Jin said, we could prove it would benefit both dimensions. Your people have knowledge we need, but maybe we have something to offer in return. Humans see things differently. We find new solutions, new ways of thinking. Daomai nodded slowly. A bridge between dimensions, built on mutual understanding rather than just wish-granting. Yoriam floated closer to Jin. Such a wish would change everything. The Council. The Council is afraid of change, Jin said softly, but they're also bound by their own rules. If the wish is properly structured, if it maintains dimensional stability while opening new possibilities. He reached out toward Yoriam, his hand stopping just short of touching her glowing form. And maybe it could change other rules too, about who has to return where and when. Yoriam's eyes widened as she understood what he was suggesting. Jin, I need time to get the wish exactly right, he said. One wrong word could have serious consequences, but I think I know what needs to be done. Dumai watched them both, seeing the unspoken emotions between them. Whatever you decide, she said, standing up to leave, make sure it's what's right for everyone. Not just humanity, not just the council, but also for yourselves. After she left, Jin and Yeoriam stayed in silence, watching the last rays of sun paint the sky in colors that crossed dimensional barriers. Tomorrow would bring Jin's final wish, and with it, changes that would affect all existence. Morning light filled the laboratory as Jin prepared for his final wish. The Dimensional Council had arrived, their energy forms casting shifting patterns on the walls. Danmai stood quietly in one corner, watching, and Yeoriam waited in the center of the room, her silver form glowing brighter than usual. Speak your final wish, Jin Park, the lead council member said. Choose with care. Jin looked at his whiteboard one last time. He had spent the entire night perfecting the wording of his wish, making sure every detail was precise. His enhanced understanding of dimensional science had shown him possibilities that no one, not even the council, had considered before. Before I make my wish, Jin said, I want to explain something. He walked to his whiteboard and pointed to his equations. These show that dimensions aren't meant to be separate. They're meant to work together, to help each other grow. That is not our understanding, a council member said. Because you've been looking at it the wrong way, Jin replied. You created barriers to prevent chaos. But barriers don't have to mean separation. They can be more like filters, letting through what helps both sides while blocking what could harm. The council members shifted, their energy patterns showing interest. Jin continued, my first wish gave me understanding. My second wish is helping humanity grow safely toward that understanding. And now my final wish will create something new. He turned to Yeoriam, whose aurora eyes were watching him intently. I wish, he said clearly, for the creation of a stable dimensional bridge system that allows controlled, beneficial interaction between our dimensions, replacing the current wish-based system with one of mutual learning and growth, while preserving the free will and choices of all beings involved, including the choice of which dimension they wish to call home. The room filled with swirling energy. The council members' forms flickered with surprise. Yeoriam's eyes widened as she understood the full meaning of his wish. This wish, the lead council member said, it would change the fundamental nature of dimensional interaction. Yes, Jin said, but it would make things better, not worse. No more lonely wish granters bound by ancient rules. No more barriers blocking understanding between dimensions. Instead, we could learn from each other, grow together. Silver light began to fill the room as the wish took effect. Jin could see the dimensional barriers shifting, not breaking but transforming. Where there were once solid walls, there were now carefully structured passages. The wish maintained stability, one council member noted with surprise. The mathematics are perfect. Because he understood what he was doing, Yeoriam said softly. He didn't wish for power or control. He wished for connection. The light grew brighter, and Jin felt reality changing around them. But this time, it wasn't just in one direction. Knowledge and understanding began flowing both ways between dimensions. The council members' energy patterns showed growing approval as they saw the beauty of this new system. And what of you, Yeoriam? The lead council member asked. The wish gives you a choice. Yeoriam floated to Jin's side. I choose to stay, she said, to help build this bridge between our worlds. To continue learning and growing, together. Delmai stepped forward. The research facility will help, she said. We can establish protocols for dimensional cooperation, create guidelines for safe interaction. The council members conferred briefly, their energy patterns mixing in complex ways. Finally, the lead member spoke. The wish is granted, and the changes are approved. A new era begins, not of wishes granted, but of wisdom shared. As the council members departed, Ho-Jin took Yo-Riam's hand. For the first time, their fingers could truly touch, as the new dimensional bridge allowed for more complete interaction. "Ready to change the universe?" he asked. Yo-Riam smiled, her silver light mixing with his human warmth. "Together," she said, "one discovery at a time." Outside the laboratory window, the sun rose on a world where the barriers between dreams and reality had become just a little bit thinner, and the possibilities for understanding had grown infinitely larger.